What's up, guys? I'm back. So, I actually had this mostly recorded, and then all of a sudden, my whole system just went off. Coincidence? You tell me. All right, so super excited for today. We've got a lot of stuff. There is several things. I feel like I already talked about them, but I'll redo it, and it'll be better. Several things that have kind of delayed me on releasing these videos. Honestly, it's as I uncover more and more about this stuff, I realize how vast the body of work is and how much time it takes to really truly understand all this stuff. And that's one of the reasons that I'm teaching this as in kind of two parts. I'm teaching it as theory to start with. So I'm showing you guys the things that I want to show you and showing you where you can find and verify those yourself, which is really important. And then after that, we'll go into more of the practical, which is like, how do I apply this? What do I do? What are the solutions? What are the remedies that I have available to me? And there are remedies. But as I've gone through this, I'm actually working on my remedies of, figuring out how to get out from underneath this slavery system that we're in. And that's a very complex thing. And there's a lot of different people teaching it. And what I found is that there's a lot of people that, unbeknownstly, most of them are teaching it wrong or teaching it partly right with a little bit of it wrong. And then there's actually a couple of actual nefarious individuals that are actually out there, maybe as agents of the Khazarian mob or the Illuminati. We'll talk more about that are actually doing it on purpose to put misinformation out there. Imagine that, right? So there's some teachers that you got to watch out for, and then there's also teachers that, and quite frankly, I'm probably in this as well, that are teaching some stuff that they don't completely understand yet, and they're teaching some things wrong on the actual practical side. And that's why I'm not teaching you guys the remedy and the practical application of this yet, because I have found when I watch these other teachers that a lot of them are showing people the wrong things to do. And again, not intentionally, but that's what I've been spending the last 4 months, it's not 4 months, excuse me, 4 weeks, just going into the depth of what, the many different remedies there are out there. So anyway, long story short, there's a lot of information. And I feel like this is really like a lifetime's work. I mean, there's some people that have been doing this for 25 years and they can understand things to a really high level, and those are some of my teachers that I'm listening to. But it takes a long time to learn this stuff. So anyway, today we want to go into the United States, and we're going to show you that that's a corporation. We're going to show you why that's important and how they set that up, and how you as a U.S. citizen are an enemy to the United States corporation. And it's written in a law called Trading with the Enemies Act, and we're going to go through that. It's an act. So lots of cool stuff to look at today. Like I say, I had most of this recorded and it just like fell apart or like shut down. So I took all my cell phones out of the room because I know those are listening devices. Call me paranoid, but honestly, when you start uncovering this stuff, I would say that it was just a coincidence, but it's happened to me so many times when all my systems work perfectly. But when I'm revealing the truth at a deep level that just shows these guys for the nefarious Luciferian assholes that they are. That's what we're dealing with here, guys. A lot of times my technology has major glitches, and it's happened so many times. So anyway, all right, so let's get into it. Let me get up our windows here. So the first thing I want to talk about is that there's two of everything. So what do I mean by that? There's two United States. There's one that's the United States of America, which is like the land and the dirt and the that's where the Constitution is still real. And because and then there's the United States, the corporation, and that's where the Constitution is not real. It's actually a different Constitution. We'll get into that. And it goes for you too. There's two of you. There's who you really are, the spiritual, living, breathing human being. And then there's your straw man that they deal with in the maritime law in the courts. It's an all caps version of you, right? And there's actually two versions of that. There's the debtor and the creditor. I'll talk about that a little bit later. So there's two of you, there's two of the United States, there's two of your state. So your state, there's the actual state of Arizona where you like put your feet in the ground and it's like the actual state, like you're there. And then there's the state of Arizona, which is a corporation. And all these corporations, guys, have DUNS numbers. So what is a DUNS number? A DUNS number is basically a credit reporting for corporations. So when you have a corporation, you register with DUNS. It stands for Dun and Bradstreet, and they register there to get corporate credit, and then they begin to, they can build up credit. But the moral of the story is, why does the United States have a DUNS number? Why does the state of Idaho have a DUNS number? Why does the courts that you go into have they're actually corporations and they have DUNS numbers? You can look up the DUNS number of the court that your traffic violation's in. I mean, this is messed up. These should not be corporations. It's pseudo government. It's not even real. It's real, but it's not lawful, as we talked about previously. So the idea to understand is there was the original Republic of the United States, and then they did an overlay, and they made all of the zip codes and all of the states with the abbreviations, which puts you in their jurisdiction. And we'll talk more about that in just a minute. So just realize there's two of everything. There's two of you, there's two of your state, there's two of your city. Your city's incorporated too. And an interesting thing about your city, if you can find its corporation papers, usually the sheriff is the CEO or the managing member of the corporation. And most sheriffs don't even realize that. There's a reason why they have to do it that way. So these guys have overlaid an entire maritime law, UCC code over the existing Republic of the United States, making our original Constitution null and void, and that should piss you off when you really find this stuff out. And I'm going to show you guys. Again, you have to go and verify what I show you, and I'm going to try to show you through, through lots of sources, like the actual UCC code online. Let's actually go in right now. We'll start out with this is Cornell Law, where I get where I read a lot of UCC code from. And the UCC code basically is, it comes from Roman civil law. It's nasty. It is the way that first of all, what does the word code mean? It means to hide. Like a code is to hide something. So this is their tool that they've used to basically enslave us through the UCC code, and it's all commercial law. And as a sovereign, you're not even a party to the UCC. So when we get into the remedy, into the practical side of this, and I have to show you guys how to actually get out of all this, the UCC code won't even apply to you. But let's go into this location of a debtor, because it says right here what the United States is. We're going to go down here. So the location of the United States is located in the District of Columbia. This is the UCC code, guys, Cornell Law. This is basically telling us right here what the United States really is. Now we're talking about the United States is the corporation, right? So it's only located in the District of Columbia. So we'll go into that a little bit more. And it's also bankrupt. What I want to show you guys, actually, hold on. Pull this up here. Okay, so we could spend a lot of time on this, but, whoa, that wasn't supposed to happen. Come back. But I will give you guys links to these documents. I've got a ton of research pulled up for you. It would take us several hours to go through it all, but I'll go over the basis of it because this is really important. So, federal zone, zip codes. We'll talk about zip codes a little bit more. Okay. District of Columbia, corporation, possession of the Queen of England. I'm going to bring this up right now. So the United States is a corporation. We've established that. And I'm going to show you the actual articles of incorporation so you can see that. And I'll show you the original ones, and I'll show you the ones that are modern day that you can go look it up. It has a DUNS number. But the reason you don't own anything, and this should piss you off even more than the other thing I told you. You don't own your house. You don't own your car, even if they're paid off, because you register them, and you register them through the state. And so what is the state? The state is a corporation, right? And and even your corporations, like you're like, okay, I have ABC Realty LLC. Well, who do you register that with? You register it with the Secretary of State. Who's the Secretary of State registered to? They're registered to the state of Idaho. Who's the state of Idaho? I'm talking corporations here, guys. This is all corporate law. This is the overlay. This is how They basically bend us over, and you know what I'm saying. It's absolutely horrendous. So the state registers with the United States Corporation. Well, who owns the United States Corporation? By the way, level with the United States Corporation is Canada, Australia, and then a lot of other countries are also all owned by the Crown. It says right here, possession of the Queen of England. And you can research this. This is the way it's set up. You don't own anything. And through Trading with the Enemy Act, they can take it all from you. And unfortunately, that is what they are planning to do. We'll go into that in the next class, but it's all set up. They're basically getting ready to steal everything from us because technically, as a U.S. citizen, you are the credit for the United States Corporation. And that's what I'm going to show you today. All right, so moving on. Possession of the Queen of England, the 1788 original Constitution for the United States, original, organic, of the people government. And then that's different from the 1871 amended version Constitution of the United States. So the most important thing that you guys can learn in life in general, and I know this sounds like a huge generality, but is the definition of words and truly like understanding what every word means. That's the way that we got ourselves into the position that we are in right now, is by not reading and then reading past words that you don't understand. So anytime you see a word, I probably look up, I guess probably 5 to 10 words a day. Anytime I see or hear a word, I'll either pause the YouTube video I'm watching, I'll look it up, or I'll stop what I'm reading and I'll go look it up. And then I'll use it in a sentence 3 times so that I can remember it. I don't always remember it. Some words I've looked up 5 or 6 times because they're just so weird to me. But the point is the way that they've done all this is through words. And we'll talk about that a little bit more here in a second. So, okay, the United States was formed in 1871, which controls only the District of Columbia and the territories purchased, which is Puerto Rico, Guam, Virgin Islands. Many think that income taxes and some laws don't affect people in the sovereign states. That's absolutely true, guys. There is legal ways not to pay taxes. I'm going to show you that. And lots of people that have done it legally. And there's actually a process to get a letter from the IRS that shows you you're tax exempt with a 98 EIN number. And that's what I'm working on right now. I'm actually going to get mine on Monday. Okay, so that's more in the practical stuff. I've still got to show you guys the theory. So the United States of America is different from the United States Corporation. The terms United States and or United States of America and or United States government are all private corporations, even with registered trademarks. The U.S. corporation, originally called the District of Columbia, does not affect or control the 50 sovereign states that are protected from the federal government by the U.S. Constitution for the United States, adopted in 1788. So they don't control us, but I'm going to show you actually, well, I'll talk about it right now, how they actually do control us. They control us through what they call jurisdiction. They get jurisdiction over you. So when you register to vote, when you get a citizenship, when your mom signs your birth certificate, you become in their jurisdiction. And there's other ways too, like the zip codes. The zip codes are, you guys remember how, okay, let me back up. So these guys are, they're Luciferian. I mean, this is really dark energy, and there's some rules, some natural laws that have to be, in order for, I don't want to get too esoteric here, but in order for evil to survive or to be allowed on earth from source or God, it has to follow certain rules. And one of those rules is it has to disclose what it's doing. So they do this all the time. It's everywhere. So they disclose what they're doing on movies. So if you go watch Contagion, I believe that's how you say it, the movie, it's an exact plan to roll out. So I probably shouldn't say that out loud because I'm putting this on YouTube, but so it's an actual plan to roll out that pandemic. So they have to show you ahead of time. So moving forward with that idea in mind, the Hunger Games, guys, you know how they have the different districts in the Hunger Games? Those match the numbers that start your zip codes. That's their plan. The Hunger Games is the future that they have in store for you through tiptoe totalitarianism. And that's what they're doing. That's only part of what they're doing. That's after they steal everything from you through the Trading with the Enemy Act, which they're about to do. This stuff is coming up right now. Um, Sorry to be a doomsdayer, but people need to wake up, man. If we do not wake up to this, our future generations have no freaking clue. Like, there's no chance that if this generation doesn't fix this, and that's why I'm sitting here with this microphone doing this on a Saturday morning, because this is important. Like, this is our last chance to get out from underneath this rule of evil that we've been under. And most of you don't even realize it. I mean, some of you realize it. Another thing that really annoys me is people think they know everything. It's like, oh, I know. I know. Yeah, United States corporation. Yeah, I know. Oh, yeah, I know the Federal Reserve's private, and I know what's going on. No, you don't. You need to dig in and you need to understand how you are registering yourself in there and supporting them every single day by the things that you do. So it's really important that we take and stand up to this, man, because this is our last fucking chance, man. This is it. This is our last chance. Like, think of the new generation, and I know they were raised differently. It's not their fault. I love all people, but they're not going to stand up to this. They can't even conceptualize that this is even reality, even though all they got to do is read. All right, so that's enough of my soapbox there for a minute. So there are two United States, one formed in 1787, the collection of the several sovereign states of the Union, and another separate and different one formed in 1871 in the nefarious, horrible act of 1871, which only controls the District of Columbia and its territories. Others can give you specific references and explain further. Here is an outline for the concepts. The date is February 21st, 1871, and the 41st Congress is in session. I refer you to the Acts of the 41st Congress, Section 34, Session number 3. Guys, you can look this stuff up. Please do. I've got some of these acts that we're going to actually pull up here in a minute, but not for this particular one. Chapter 61 and 62. On this date in the history of our nation, Congress passed an act titled, An Act to Provide a Government for the District of Columbia. This is also known as the Act of 1871. What does it mean? Well, it means that Congress, under no constitutional authority to do so, created a separate form of government for the District of Columbia, which is a 10-mile square parcel of land. And if you guys want to see a super cool video, type in Empire Cities. Actually, let me look it up so I don't tell you wrong. Hold on. Okay, I found it. So it's called, this is a 3-hour long video, but there's a full one out there. It's like, I believe it's 6 hours long. So the Empire of the Cities. So what most people don't realize is that there is it's controlled by this whole Khazarian mob, Illuminati, whatever you want to call it, they're all ran through 3 cities. Number 1, London. London is the financial part of it. Number 2, the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. They are the military part of it. And number 3, the Vatican, which is the religious part of it. And the Vatican is actually who holds all your birth certificates, because that's why they call him the Padre, the Papa, because he is your Papa. He owns you. Yeah, you could go off on all these tangents, but I gotta stay focused here. So going back to what we're reading. Okay. The Constitution for the United States of America was adopted on September 17, 1787, by the Constitutional Convention in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and ratified by conventions in each U.S. state in the name of the people. There's a lot of Supreme Court case law that you can go into as well, but I just want to touch on some of this. So the Act of 1871 was created a government by the name of the District of Columbia, which name it is hereby constituted a body corporate for municipal purposes. And I'm going to show you guys the actual articles of incorporation. The state legislative power of the district shall extend to all rightful subjects of legislation within said district, within their district. Remember that. Nothing herein shall be construed to deprive Congress of the power of legislation over said district, entitled an act to revise and consolidate the statutes of the United States, general and permanent in their nature, relating to the District of Columbia, in force on this first day of December in the year of our Lord, 1873. or 871. Okay, so legislating the organization of a municipal corporation to run the day-to-day affairs of the District of Columbia, not the 50 sovereign states. The seat of government, which is transferred the United States of America, the Republic, into a corporate entity entitled the United States in capital letters, having no jurisdiction outside of District of Columbia. So this is when it all happened, guys. It all happened in 1871. Well, there's a lot of things that led up to it, but this is one of the main pinnacle points of really what happened in our history when our Constitution was usurped from us and taken back from us. I mean, we might think that we won the revolution, but those guys were so smart, they came back and figured out how to get it right back from us. These guys are a lot of things. They're satanic. They're like they kill, like they've set up pretty much every single war there's ever been. Obviously they're super evil. They'll kill for whatever they need to do. They do really bad things to children. I'm not going to go into that. But another thing they are is they're also very sophisticated. They're also very intelligent. So that's what we're dealing with. Is there fraud in our ranks? Yes, there is. This act was passed when the country was weakened and financially depleted in the aftermath of the Civil War. It was a strategic move by foreign interests, international bankers who were intent upon gaining a stranglehold on the coffers and neck of America. So, guys, this all goes back to banks, and even before banks, is insurance companies. So everything, this is kind of out of the scope of this particular video, but everything is insurance. Even your mortgages, your credit cards, you're basically making insurance premium payments, and I'll explain that later. But everything is insurance, and then insurance runs the banks. The banks hired and created the Bar Association, the British Accreditation Registry, so the lawyers could support their UCC code so that they could infringe all this overlay on the Republic of the United States, which has left us with no constitution. Good summary there. So the Act of 1871 formed a corporation called the United States. The corporation, owned by foreign interest, moved in and shoved the original Constitution into a dustbin. With the Act of 1871, the original Constitution for the United States of 1788 was defaced, in effect vandalized and sabotaged, when the title was capitalized and the word "for" was exchanged to "of" in the title, the Constitution of the United States of America. Oh, this goes on for a long time. There's a lot of stuff to study. I mean, you could spend 6 months just learning about this act. That's what I'm saying. Like, this stuff runs deep. But what we're going to go into now is I'm going to show you guys the original. And this was filed in 1925, Articles of Incorporation. So I don't know if there was like maybe they didn't have articles in 1871, but this is the first one that we've found. And this is pretty cool. If any of you guys have LLCs, you have articles of incorporations. And this is 100009. If you Google this, you can find it yourself. Okay. So this is like the oldest articles of incorporation filed on July 15th, 1925. Certificate of Incorporation of the United States Corporate Company. And you can see they list all their offices here. We got Denver, Chicago, Albany, New York, Jersey City, New Jersey, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, International Corporation Company. 65 Cedar Street, New York City. Kind of cool to go visit that address. If any of you guys live in New York, go check it out. Okay, so if you read this, it tells you what they're up to, but they use code words. Like, well, it's not really code words, but they talk about trading bonds and property and certificates. But what they're doing, or what fits underneath that, is trading you. They're trading you through your birth certificate, which is a bond created under your straw man, and you are the credit for the United States Corporation because it is bankrupt and it owes the Federal Reserve, which are these nefarious bankers, it owes them more. That's what the national debt is, and we are what the collateral is. Not to mention also our national parks and all of our land has been mortgaged. Don't get me started. All right, so you guys can go through and read this if you want. It does lay out exactly what they're doing. I do want to show you. It's even got the names of the of the officers. Directors is what they're calling them here. So Harry Coghlan, Samuel Howard, Arthur Britton, Louis Gunther, Samuel Howard, Arthur Britton. So these guys are kind of like a straw man. They're people that get put in there, and oftentimes they don't have a lot of knowledge of what's going on. They're probably getting paid to have this position, but there's a lot they don't know, like really what they're doing. Okay, so that is the totality of the Articles of Incorporation. So this is the old one. So let's just go look right now. Like I said, these things have these guys. It's current. Like they have a DUNS number. You can look it up. You can look up not only you can look up your city. It's got a DUNS number. You can look up your state. It's got a DUNS number. You can look up your government. It has a DUNS number. You can even look up your courts. Even the courts have a DUNS number. So if you're ever challenging something in court, it's nice to know the history of the judge, and it's nice to know the DUNS number because they're making a shitload of money off of you. Okay, so the United States Corporation Company, this is just on US Business Finder, bizprofiles.com. You can just look it up. It says, hey, there's the original file number that we just looked at. And 1925, this one's in, there's multiple corporations, guys, like thousands. I think the United States, someone told me they have, it's going to crack you up, 6,666 sub-corporations underneath the United States Corporation. Everything for like the Department of Interior, all the 3-letter acronym, what do they call them? The ABC, the FBI, the CIA. A lot of those aren't even legal. The FBI doesn't even have a charter. They don't even have a legal authority to operate. The only way the FBI operates is just through authority. Like they just come in and take over scenes. They don't actually you cannot find a congressional act that made the FBI legal. It's not even there. Side story. Okay, so officers and directors. Now these are present day. Rodman Ward the third, George Messiah the third. And you look at these. There's actually on this other webpage. I couldn't get it to pull up though. There's actually a spider thing right here that's normally populating, but this webpage decided to stop working. But it's a spider map, and it shows the link between all of these. It's so cool because it shows like here's the U.S. Corp, and then it's linked to this, linked to that, and this is linked to this. And it's like linked to fraternities. It's linked to LexisNexis, which is an intelligence company that courthouses use. We actually used it as real estate investors as well. You can see Prentice Hall. So they control all the books, guys. They're printing all the books. They've rewrote history. They've changed all of history. Yeah, it's frustrating. They're basically brainwashing our children. The stuff in the history books isn't even real. Don't get me started on that. Egypt's not where you think it is. So much bad. It's pretty frustrating. Okay. So now that we've established pretty clearly that the United States is a nefarious, I love that word. I've been using it a lot. A nefarious corporation. We're going to go into what they're going to do about it and how they're going to do it. So this guy, you got to know this guy. He is, first of all, just look at his eyes. You can tell he's a nasty being. So this guy was a oil tycoon in Texas, and he was basically one of the Khazarian mobsters, or worked for them, or also I haven't introduced you guys to the Khazarian mob, but really it's basically Illuminati. It's where this all comes from. So anyway, this is one of their minions, little pile of, looks like he weighs about 120. But anyway, so this guy, you're going to see what he did. He had the ear of Woodrow Wilson. History's going to write him as a scholar that was a political, I don't know, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyway, like that he did all this. Oh, look, he was in a fraternity. Fraternities have some crazy history. I was actually in a fraternity too, but a lot of these fraternities are tied into this. And then, like the Masonics, and it's crazy when this stuff all ties together, but it's all been included. They've hidden all this stuff. So even to find this guy, what we're going to look at now is a speech that he gave to Woodrow Wilson in 1913. And I believe, could have my dates off, but I believe it was rumored to be at Jekyll Island, but I'm not sure about that. So anyway, let's read this because it basically lays out exactly what their plan was. I mean, this just tells it straight up. Okay, a quote to remember by Edward Mandell House. He said in a letter to President Woodrow Wilson, 1913 through 1921, very soon America will be required to register their biological property, he's talking about the birth certificate, in a national system designed to keep track of the people, and that will operate under the ancient system of pledging. So there's actually a video out there where someone goes through this and clears every single word. What I mean by clear is they look up the actual meaning of every single word. And it's a phenomenal video because you really have to know what all these words mean. But essentially, this is where they lay out our entire system. Okay, by pledging, ancient system of pledging. By such methodology, we can compel people to submit to our agenda, which will affect our security as a chargeback for our fiat paper currency. So what they're saying right there is they're going to basically put all of the debt on the people through a security pledge. Every American will be forced to register or suffer not being able to work and earn a living. They will be our chattel, and we will hold the security interest over them forever. By operation of the law merchant. Law merchant is maritime law. It's a part of maritime law. Under the scheme, I mean, these guys are just telling you right up what they're doing, of secured transactions, Americans, by unknowingly or unwittingly delivering the bills of lading, the birth certificates, to us, will be rendered bankrupt and insolvent forever to remain economic slaves through taxation secured by their pledges. What else can I say? They will be stripped of their rights and given a commercial value designed to make us a profit, and they will be none the wiser. For not one man in a million, I guess I'm one in a million, could ever figure out our plans, and so are you guys, by the way. And if by accident one or two would figure it out, we have in our arsenal plausible deniability. They actually, in some ways, have done this legally, not completely. It's all fraud, but once they get you to register with them through either a birth certificate, a driver's license, citizenship, then they can legally do all the shit they're doing. But the way that they got you with your birth certificate is, oh, I don't have that document open. Is when, obviously you were a kid, you couldn't make that decision. So it's fraud. Okay, so after all, this is the only logical way to fund government. By floating liens and debt to the registrants in the form of benefits and privileges. I'll let you go hunting if you get a license. I'll let you drive a car if you get. It's in the Constitution. We can drive our own car. I mean, it's in case law. This will inevitably reap to us huge profits beyond our wildest expectations and leave every American a contributor to this fraud, which we will call social insurance. Social Security was later named. Without realizing it, every American will insure us for any loss we may incur. And in this manner, every American will unknowingly be our servant. How does that feel? Citizens of the United States. However, begrudgingly. The people will become helpless and without any hope for their redemption, and we will employ the high office of the president of our dummy corporation to foment this plot against Americans. So guys, the United States president is the CEO of the United States Corporation. He's usually also the commander-in-chief, and sometimes he's also the president of the United States of America, but not always. Biden is only the CEO of the corporation. He's not the president. He's not the commander-in-chief. Trump still is, and you can look that up. You can find that if you research it. So this is what they're doing. This is how they laid it out. And now I'm going to take you guys to Minnesota is the only state. This is called Minnesota Rule 220, and it's very famous because it's the only state that actually tells you what they're doing. You have to be able to understand and read into it a little bit. So let's read through this. The Register of Titles is authorized to receive for registration of memorials upon any outstanding certificate of title, an official birth certificate pertaining to a registered owner's name in said certificate of title, showing the date of birth of the said registered owner, providing there is attached to said birth certificate an affidavit of an affiant who states that she is familiar with the facts recited, stating that the party named in said birth certificate is the same party as one of the owners named in said certificate of title, and that thereafter the register of title shall treat said registered owner of having attained the age of majority at a date 18 years after the date of birth shown by said certificate. Okay, so that's a mouthful. Basically, what they're saying is you can claim your own birth certificate, and we're going to get into the Seska v. Trust Act because I probably should have put that first. This is Minnesota showing you the way out of this. They're saying you can, if you have a, I'll just tell you guys. So part of the remedy to this is to get your birth certificate certified, and then you can claim it. And this is the only state that still shows this. So, okay, I kind of got this out of order a little bit. So in the Seska Act of 1666, again, something that you probably want to look up, it talks about, this was set up to, see, here's probably a better. The first Seska trusts formed were through an act of Henry VIII of England in 1540, and later wholly corrupted, whereby the poor people of England, after having all their homes, goods, and wealth seized, this has happened before, guys, what they're about to do to us, under the guise of small religious estates, under 200 euros, or whatever that is, were granted the welfare or commonwealth benefit of a Seska use, or simply an estate with which to live, work, and to bequeath with via a written will. So it's getting a little bit confusing, but basically what they're doing is they're saying the Seska Act says that if you don't come back within 8 years to claim your minor estate, then it belongs to them. So what's happened with all of us is they've taken us through the story of a mother that I told you guys earlier in the earlier videos. By the way, if you haven't watched the earlier videos, make sure and go back and watch. There's 3 earlier videos that are the foundation to understand this. And we talked about the story of the mother and the maritime law coming down the birth canal, getting their feet print stamped onto the bill of lading, which is the birth certificate. And then then you go and you register that with the state. And then it basically belongs to the Pope at that point because of all the way that I've told you this guys is all tied together. And if you never come back and claim it, then it's theirs. Now, you can come back and claim it at any time, but after 8 years, you never claim your minor estate. So what they've done is they've created a trust in your name, as we've talked about. And I'm going to show you guys here in just a minute. Actually, let's just do it right now. So this is, let's see here. Oh, of course, it's not going to work right now. You can actually look up, you have several CUSIP numbers. One is your social security number, and one is your, there we go. You can only see part of my social, who cares? But this website is, actually, I'll show you the website real quick. gmi.dtcc.com/search. What I'm doing is I'm looking up a CUSIP number, and these are all the people that are trading me, guys. And you can look up yours too on that website. So this just proof that the Seska Trust exists and that there's bonds out there created in your name. You're funding the government. How deep do I want to go on this? So the budgets that are like, you know how they say, oh, we're under our budget, the city's out of budget, or the government's out of budget. It's bullshit. They've got like infinite money. They have what's called, or actually it is the DTCC. Oh, wow. Forgot about that. They have, they can basically get money whenever they want. And they have a these things called the CAFR, CAFR, that actually funds all the government. And the budget is an overlay over that, where they act like they're out of money, but they have, it's ridiculous. That's why they can write, $3 trillion bills or whatever, because they literally have unlimited funds based on your credit through these bonds that they are hypothecating from the time you're born based off your birth certificate. So hopefully this is all coming together for you guys. Obviously, there's a lot more to be learned. There's a lot of, actually the function of how it's done that we could get into, but I want to give you an overview and show you that your slavery is fucking real, man. They are doing this to you right now if you're a U.S. citizen. Okay, so Sescovy Trust, and then Minnesota is the only place that tells you kind of how to get out of it. See the age of majority. So that's pretty cool. This is a big find for the sovereign community. And there's the Sescovy Trust Act if you want to read it. But that's basically how they set up your trust. There's another article on it. Okay, so So the fact of the matter is the United States did go bankrupt in 1933 and was declared so by President Roosevelt by executive order. You can look up the numbers there. And by executive order 6260 on March 9th, 1933, under the Trading with the Enemy Act. And then the Emergency Banking Relief Act. So this is all FDR's New Deal. And this is when they really made the citizens fund everything. So let me back up and just explain this here real quick. Hold on, let me switch pages. All right, guys, sorry this video is getting long, but this is super important. So we're going to go into the Trading with the Enemies Act. I'm going to show you guys why why a citizen, which most of you are, is the enemy of the state. It's really messed up. Okay, U.S. citizens were classified as enemies of the state in 1933. The 14th Amendment was put into place during an extremely turbulent time just after the Civil War. It was supposedly passed to free the slaves. That's what we're taught in school, right? Remember, they own the companies, Prentice Hall, that prints all the books. They own all the companies. They own all the media. However, it made all Americans persons. And this is, again, where you have to know the definition of words, who were at the time New Yorkers, Virginians, Pennsylvanians, under the jurisdiction of central federal government for the first time. So when you switch from a citizen back to a state national, you will become an Idahoan or an Arizonan or a Californian or there's Ohioite, I think is what they call the Ohioans. And there's actually a place in the USCC code that tells you what you are when you exit, and it tells you what to call yourself. Like, it's all written in the code. Okay, so that's the 14th Amendment. We cannot, however, forget that the 14th Amendment was not lawfully passed. This fact was exposed by congressional record, and I'm going to show you guys this real quick. This is the actual congressional record. (1967), and I'm not going to read it all, obviously, because it's huge, but this Mr. Rarick guy jumps out and he says, why are we passing this? He says, arrogantly ignoring clear-cut expression in the Constitution of the United States, the declared intent of its drafters, notwithstanding, our unelected federal judges read out prohibitions of the Constitution of the United States by adopting the fuzzy haze of the 14th Amendment to legislate their personal ideas, prejudices, theories, guilt complexes, aims, and whims. So what the 14th Amendment really did is it made you a United States citizen, a person, which is a corporation, and this is what gave them their power. But they did it under the guise of, oh, we're freeing the slaves, but we're also, at the same time, we're freeing the slaves, which is obviously a great thing. We're going to enslave everybody else through legalese, using these words. And that's what they did. Through the corporation of intellectual educators, we have subjected ourselves to accept destructive use and meanings of words and phrases. Right there. That is exactly right. We blindly accept new meanings and changed values to alter our traditional thoughts. This is, I think Mr. Rarick was a congressman or a senator from Arkansas, I believe. And he, either that or Nevada, and he's calling all this out. We have tolerantly permitted habitual misuse of words to serve as a vehicle to abandon our foundations and goals. Thus, the present use and expansion of the 14th Amendment is a sham, serving as a crutch and hoodwink to precipitate a quasi-legal approach for overthrow of the tender balances and protections of limitation found in the Constitution. Wow. Couldn't have said it any better. Concurrent, so this is House Resolution 208, concurrent resolution to expose the unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment because, guys, they didn't even pass it legally. The proposed amendment was not ratified by 3/4 of the states, but to the contrary, 15 states of the then 37 states of the Union rejected the 14th Amendment between the dates of its submission to the states by the Secretary of State on June 16th, 1866 and March 24th, 1868, thereby nullifying said resolution and making it impossible for ratification by the constitutionally required 3/4 of such states. He goes on to say what states they are, and whereas the reconstructive acts of Congress unlawfully overthrew their existing governments, removed their lawfully constituted legislature by military force, and replaced them with rump legislatures which carried out military orders and pretended to ratify the 14th Amendment. And whereas, in spite of the facts that the Secretary of State in his first proclamation expressed doubt as to whether 3/4 of the required states had ratified the 14th Amendment, Congress nevertheless adopted a resolution on July 28, 1868, unlawfully declaring that 3/4 of the United States had ratified the 14th Amendment. So, guys, it wasn't even legally done. The 14th Amendment was not adopted in accordance with the mandatory constitutional requirements set forth in Article 5 of the Constitution, and therefore the Constitution itself strikes with nullity the purported 14th Amendment. The unconstitutionality of the 14th Amendment, and then they go into, let's see. So, moral of the story is, just like a lot of the shit they do it. They did the same thing with the Federal Reserve Act, actually. It's not even legal. Okay, so trying to go kind of fast because I know this video is getting long, but this article is so good. The situation has continued absolutely uninterrupted since 1933. We have been in a state of declared national emergency. Oh, sorry, I got to go back. So, since March the 9th, 1933, the United States has been in a state of declared national emergency. Did you know that? That's why the president has so much power. Under the powers delegated by these statutes, the president may seize property, organize and control the means of production, seize commodities, assign military forces abroad, institute martial law, seize and control all transportation and communication, regulate the operation of private enterprise, restrict travel, and control the lives of all American citizens. Citizens, not state nationals. This situation has continued absolutely uninterrupted since March 9th, 1933, and we have been in a state of declared national emergency for 85 years without knowing it. Okay, guys, I don't know, I think I mentioned this in a previous video, but the flag that we fly isn't even the right flag. We are flying a wartime flag. And what that flag means is that if you fly that flag in front of your house, it means that a soldier can come in and get food, rations, and sleep. That's what that flag's for. It's a wartime flag. So maybe call him Kirkpatrick or whatever when he wouldn't stand to when we're saying I pledge allegiance, that pledge, look, I'm an American, I'm an Idahoan, true blood, but these guys, when you're pledging to the United States of America, the actual, if you read how that was written, I should do a video on that. Like, it's not what you think it is. And the flag isn't even the right flag. So this is actually the proper flag. Let's see if you can see this. So this is our civil flag. And this is what we should be flying because we're not in war. But since we're in maritime law, we're flying the wrong flag. We're not even flying the right flag. That should annoy you. It annoys me. Okay. This act originally excluded citizens. So when they did the Trading with the Enemy Act, I think I've got, let's see here. So yeah, here's the Trading with the Enemy Act. You can look this stuff up. The original act did not include U.S. citizens as an enemy, but then they came and they changed it. And I'll show you where they changed it. This act originally excluded citizens in the United States, but in the act of March 9th, 1933, Section 2 amended this to include any person within the United States or any place subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So this is what they do: is they pass a law. It's the same thing they did with the Patriot Act. They're like, oh, we've got all these people, Bin Laden, that are spying on us. No, they weren't. I'll tell you real quick. The government was trading with Bin Laden, doing opium trades, and when they couldn't agree on the trade, then they framed Bin Laden for 9/11. That's a whole nother story. But what they do is they pass these laws, and then they'll even pass them and act like they're good. Because the Trading with the Enemy Act basically says that anybody that's doing business with an enemy of the United States. All right, guys, sorry, some technical difficulties there. Anybody that's doing business with the United States, with the Trading with the Enemy Act, is basically, they're saying that if you're doing business with someone that the United States is at war with, then you are also an enemy. So the actual act itself sounded good for the public. Like, yeah, that makes sense. But then what they do is they come in and they slide in this amendment later. So the Section 2 amended it to include, then they throw in the United States citizen, which is what they had in mind the whole time. That's what they were trying to, that's why they passed the law, but they do it in a way to where they can hide it. So let me show you this. This is where they amended it. So like I say, you can look all this stuff up, congressional record. Let's see, is this no, that's not the right one, sorry. Amendment to the Trading with the Enemy Act. Pretty cool. You can actually look all this stuff up, but March 9th, 1933, Congress. So you might not be able to see that view. By any person, yeah, they just stick in these little tiny things. So by any person within the United States or any place subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So right there, they got all United States citizens. And that's how they do things. Like they hide, like all this stuff, like the Obamacare basically is a way that they can track all your medical records and do all kinds of stuff that they're planning to do with the DNA altering VAX. I mean, it's nasty. Okay. It was here that every American citizen literally became an enemy to the United States government under declaration. According to the current memorandum of American cases and recent English cases on the law of trading with the enemy, we have no personal rights at law in any court, and all rights of an enemy, all American citizens are declared enemies, to sue in the courts are suspended, whereby the public good must prevail over the private gain. This also provides for the taking over of enemy private property. Now we know why we no longer receive a allodial freehold title to our land. As enemies, our property is no longer ours to have. I've talked about this. Guys, you get a warranty deed, and on the warranty deed, it says, well, first of all, look up warranty. It's not even a real deed. And on the warranty deed, it says that you're a tenant. That's what it says. This also, let's see, do I read that? Yeah, so allodial title is like allodial. Let me just look it up real quick. Oh, this cracks me up. So I look it up on one site and it's like, oh, to hold something allodially. Like, yeah, you're trying to hide definition. And then I go a little deeper and it says, free from the tenurial rights of a feudal overlord. Oh, man. You look this stuff up and it's just, I mean, it's unbelievable what they're doing. Okay. The only way we can do business or any type of legal trade is to obtain permission from our government by means of a license, which puts you under their jurisdiction, registering. So who initiated all these emergency powers against the abominable federal? Again, it's the abominable Federal Reserve. On March 3rd, 1933, the Federal Reserve Bank of New York adopted a resolution stating that the withdrawal of currency and gold from the banks had created a national emergency, and the Federal Reserve Board is hereby requested to urge the President of the United States to declare a bank holiday Saturday, March 4th, and Monday, March 6th. Roosevelt was told to close down the banking system. He did so with Proclamation 2039 under the excuse of an alleged unwarranted hoarding of gold by Americans. This is what they do, guys. This is what they do. They are lying to us. If you even watch any news at all, you've got to turn it off. Then with Proclamation 2040, he declared on March 9th, 1933, the existence of a national bank emergency, whereas all proclamations hereto or hereafter issued by the President pursuant to the authority conferred by Section 5B of the Act of October 6, 1917, as amended, are approved and confirmed. Just slide it in over the weekend, right? Once an emergency is declared, there is no common law, and the Constitution is automatically abolished. We are no longer under law. Law has been abolished. We are under a system of war powers. That's why we're flying the wrong flag. Our stocks, bonds, houses, land can be seized as Americans, and seized as Americans are considered enemies of the state. What we have is not ours under the war powers given to the president, who is the commander-in-chief of the military war machine. For over 80 years, no president has been willing to give up this extraordinary power and terminate the original proclamation. United States citizens are all enemies, subject to tribunal district courts under martial law, wartime jurisdiction, maritime law, guys, a constitutional dictatorship. 20 years after the state of emergency was put in place, British accreditation registry attorneys managed to get state legislature across the country to insert the UCC, the Universal Commercial Code, into their statutes. All this was accomplished by the mid-1960s. This is from Melvin Stamper's book, Fruit from a Poisonous Tree, which is an excellent book. Today, the UCC is the law of the land, not the U.S. Constitution. So this goes back to how we're in the water, we're on a boat, as Eric says. We're in a boat in the water till you figure out your remedy, which I'm going to teach you guys. The American people cannot alter this reality. Registering as a voter only signifies that you are volunteering to be an enemy of the state. The United States Federal Corporation is run by its officers, and we the people are not one of them. Guys, your votes don't even count. I might do a video on that. Not until you're a state national, your votes don't even count. The best we can do until a president cancels the permanent state of emergency is to extract ourselves from the statutes as enemies of this federal corporation by defining our political and legal characters. Which basically means to renunciate your U.S. citizenship and to do an injunction with the state, which I'm in the process of doing. Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and you can't turn your back on this. Actually, I want to show you something real quick. Hold on, let me pull it up. All right, guys, this has been a long course, class, module, whatever. But I want to end with some memes to kind of give you an idea of what kind of situation we're in. So here's Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free. Ronald Reagan. A nation can survive its fools and even the ambitious, but it cannot survive treason from within. An enemy at the gates is less formidable, for he is known and carries his banner openly. But the traitor moves amongst those within the gate freely, his sly whispers rustling through all the alleys. heard in the very halls of government itself. Marcus Tullius Cicero. So that's what's happening. I mean, our whole government system has been corrupted. For in reason, all government without the consent of the governed is the very definition of slavery. Jonathan Swift. I really need you guys to wake up. If you're a U.S. citizen, you're a slave. I'm sorry. I'm not. It is what it is. I'm currently a slave as well. Not for long. I'm actually fixing that. I believe there are more instances of the abridgment of freedom of the people by gradual and silent encroachments by those in power than by violent and sudden usurpations. James Madison. So that's what they call tiptoe totalitarianism, moving us into socialism, which is just a smaller form or a slighter form of communism, guys. That's where we're headed. That's what they're doing. Hunger Games. The darkest places in hell are reserved for those who maintain their neutrality in times of moral crisis. Dante Alighieri. So, I personally think that, especially the men, if women want to do this too, that's fine. But I think this is the men's job to stand up. And that's why I'm doing this, is because I do believe that this has to come out. It has to be massively shown to everybody. And if you guys made it this far in the video, subscribe to my channel and help me move this stuff out. Bring people into the Escape the Matrix and get other people understanding this so we can get it out. And we'll close with this. At some point, you will have to stop running and take a stand. Either you, your children, or your grandchildren. Better you than them. And that is what it comes down to, guys. Thanks for listening to this long video. I hope you see the gravity of the situation that we're in. It's really easy just to go out and, drink beers and eat pizza, and you should do that. But you've got to stand up to this. You've got to, whatever is right for you, whether it's just to start researching. For most of you, it's just going to be to start researching more. But you can't turn your back on this. You can't. I mean, I can't. I've tried. It's something that needs us all to stand, and that's really the only thing that needs to happen, is that people need to stand. So I love you guys. I really appreciate you. Appreciate your support, and reach out to me if I can help, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.